In our group, we talked about two pieces. One is the use of vocabulary in her paraphrases and her questioning, but then there were the unspoken habits of mind, listening with understanding and empathy, questioning and problem posing, thinking about your thinking, all of those other pieces that were not necessarily articulated in actual words, but that were happening in the pattern of language she was using.
So one of the things I want to say is I noticed that Michelle's questions got Andrea to use the habits of mind. So the things that you said, then it was Andrea's response demonstrated the habits of mind, but because of the way you asked the question. But we loved the wonder and awe and, things that were surprises, things we didn't expect to see.
So we're coming to the edge of the end. Mm-hmm. And thank you so much, both Andrea and Michelle, for such a rich stimulation of conversation. And Art, thank you for getting us set into thinking about this in a new avenue. And I think we're now on that path. So what I'd do is I'd like to say that we invite any of you who would like to continue this conversation with us. You can just let us know. You can let either Michelle, Allison, me, Art know. I'd like to join the group that's having this conversation. And as I said before, it's Juanita. So far, it's Juanita and Pat and Michelle, Allison, and Art. And Liz, okay. And to really begin to think this through. So yes, if you're interested in continuing this, we can move it off of Monday, where we're kind of trying to keep our Monday meetings so that we don't get too much into a training mode and we keep our topics kind of open. But just text us, write to us, do whatever to tell us you'd like to be a part of this continuing conversation. We invite you to do that. And then we wanted to say, and Michelle, you want to talk about where we're going next for our next meeting?
Sure. One, I'll send just a follow-up to tonight's conversation. So if you're interested in continuing to be a part of this development in thinking, that might be an easy way. You can just reply to me and we'll make sure that we circle back and connect with you. Again, thank you, Andrea, for just being so generous and sharing your thinking. Our next Monday meeting, which is, if I looked at my calendar right, it's March 6th. Yep. So March 6th. So a month from now, our topic focus that we wanted to lift up is the certified schools and that community that you heard a little bit tonight. Andrea is part of that certified school community. So the International Learning Communities of Excellence, and an opportunity to celebrate them, but also learn from their journey and share a little bit of the thinking from the Institute about some reshaping of that certification process. So we'll inform you, and then also our plan is to invite some schools to come forward and engage in the dialogue. So we look forward to seeing all of you next month. And feel free to reach out at any point with questions, wonderings, future topics that you might have, some curiosities around. And just what a pleasure and a gift it is to all be together. So thank you so much, Bena, Art, Allison. Thank you for your just really outstanding leadership of the Institute, and for all of you, your commitment to the habits of mind and to just continuing to make the world a more thoughtful place. Mm-hmm. Have a great evening, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Take care.
There are a couple of things you said that I think are really kind of stand out for me. One is that we have to be very aware. It is wonderful that you were able to name the habits, but that's not the point. The point is that you were living them, that you were being who you are. And one of the things that you said that I thought was probably the entry point that we all need to be considering, which is not so much how can I script what I'm going to do, as how can I honor the other person in such a way that I'm giving them the invitation to join me. And I think there's such a difference between having the invitation to join me in this conversation versus my asking you a question that will or will not put you to a place where I'm here to help you. And those are the nuances of what you were doing tonight, and the nuances of what was happening between you and Andrea in my mind. And because you were, on show, I'm sure you were being extra conscious of all these things. But the truth is that it was just a seamless recognition of the fact that these habits are in play, and that it's never, just like in the discussion group I was in, they said, but this just shows it's never one habit in play.
Exactly.
Never.
That's so true. I agree with that.
Yeah, so it's really realizing, and I think that is the growing place for people who want to be in the consultant, an IHOM consultant. But I think the bridge between individual practitioner, where they've had that highly personalized experience of what it means for students and for themselves, I do think the bridge is in this place that we're in right now.
I agree with that.
The other thing that I was processing is the notion of warmth. That was something that Andrea said directly when she was processing the question, what did it feel like to be part of that conversation? But I think the other dynamic is that you're drawing out from the individual as opposed to sort of imposing in. So instead of it feeling like an agenda, something that's being pushed, it's something that actually, it's not necessarily being pulled, but potentially being opened up. And I think one of the interesting parts of that is that warmth, that sort of emotive feel that it's not just a safe place, but it's a friendly place. And I think that relational part of the coaching process is just so important to establish.
I think what we've just been through and what has been recorded, I'm so glad, is that we have had a reflective conversation, and you have shared your metacognition, what was going on in your head. And I think that's so very powerful that we could demonstrate that as a reflection. And what I may have interpreted incorrectly, but I think I did, was that at some point in your conversation, there was a shift. And the shift was away from the habits of mind as a list that you were kind of checking them off inside your head. And what you shifted to was listening to her and picking up from her cues, which were the habits of mind that she was thinking about and how to respond to them. And that to me was so powerful that you gave up the list and began tuning into her. Marvelous.
I think you are exactly correct. You were exactly correct in that statement. And that was that tension in the moment of thinking, okay, there's a purpose here of serving Andrea, and there's a purpose of serving the group, and realizing and giving myself internally permission. It's knowing in my heart, it's not about the list and ticking it off, and letting go of that, even when I knew that's not what it needed to be. And you were exactly right. It then allows you to listen more deeply to Andrea. And yeah, it was an interesting conversation, and I'm excited to circle back with her.
And I think that tells us something about the training, that as long as you're dependent upon a list, you're not quite ready yet is when you can give that up and pick up in the moment the habit of mind that the person is seeking or asking for, or that you're using. That's a shift in training strategy, I think, in how they're going to be, how they're going to be introduced to and using the habits of mind in an interactive way, as you just did. It has to be from listening and not from the memorizing a list.
That's what I meant by fluency. I think
Yeah.
you just have to have that level of fluency.
Okay,
And I think you have to, there's so much trust in this, because, you know, you do have to be attuning. And to attune with somebody else, you have to trust to the fact that what you're doing is moving in the right direction. That you're not worrying over, am I doing this, or am I doing the, you know, the brain has to stop chattering, and you have to just say, you know, I'm here for you. And I'm really interested in hearing what you have to say. And God knows where we're going, but what's the difference?
Yes, trusting in the person, trusting in the process and the journey, you know, which Scott in the debriefing, and it was right when the breakouts were ending. And so didn't get a chance to explore this, but he said something about the idea, how important it is to raise the question, are we being effective or correct? Correct's not the right word. I forget the other word, but my sense is what we were just talking about is a little bit of what he was trying to get to. You know, is the conversation, and in what way is the conversation serving the person, and whatever the agreement or intention is of that exchange. I mean, certainly for all of us, we're going to have conversations with certified schools where there is something very specific that they are committing to, in a journey that they're taking, and we have a responsibility to communicate that to and with them, but to also learn and help them, as you said, Allison, figure out, how do they connect? What's their motivation? What do they want to sort of gain from the process? You know, what are they curious about? I think it's a really, it's a beautiful opportunity to create sort of a new dance or rhythm, and it's fun.
Beautiful opportunity. And I think we should think about it.